U.S. President Donald Trump says the U.S. and Iran are, quote, seriously talking amid tensions between Washington and Tehran. The comments coming overnight on Air Force One.
We could make a negotiated deal that would be satisfactory with no nuclear weapons. They said they should do that, but I don't know that they will. But they are talking to us, seriously talking to us.
Now, this comes as Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said today, according to state media, that if the U.S. attacks Iran, it would create a regional conflict. The U.S. has built up its naval presence in the Middle East after President Trump repeatedly threatened Iran with intervention if it did not agree to a nuclear deal or failed to stop killing protesters. A diplomatic solution remains an option, with Tehran saying it's ready for fair negotiations that did not reduce its defensive capabilities. Let's now invite Aaron David Miller, former State Department Middle East advisor and senior fellow Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Good evening and thanks for your time, Aaron. Great to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
So what do you make of this rhetoric? On one side, we have a warning coming in from Iran. On the other side, Donald Trump is showing some sort of confidence in how there will be some sort of dialogue or a deal maybe reached with Iran.
Look, you have a predictably unpredictable president. And clearly, in many respects, he's put himself in a box because unlike any of his predecessors, any of the administrations I've worked for, Republican or Democrat, no president has reacted to the murderous efforts to repress demonstrations the way this president is. He's used phrases like, help is on the way, we'll hit them hard, encourage protesters in the street to seize your institutions. And apart from the morally or ethically unconscionable policy of trying to encourage demonstrators to go out and face, unarmed demonstrators to go out and face the repressive powers of the state, he seemingly encouraged him. So he's out there now, and he needs to demonstrate in some way that, in fact, he can show resolve. On the other hand, I think the administration generally fears the risks of a military action which the regime survives, or one that triggers an Iranian reaction, either against Gulf states, American interests in the Gulf, or certainly the Iranians are threatening, and they have a repository of some 2,000 ballistic missiles against the Israelis. So in many respects, he's caught in a bind, and right now it's negotiated on one hand. We'll see where we are, but he has an enormous amount of American military hardware deployed in the region and wants the defensive assets to protect U.S. forces and the Israelis, I suspect, should Iran retaliate. Once those are positioned, you'll also have a military option.
Yeah, but let me ask you about the possibility of U.S. actually going ahead with that attack. I mean, for example, dealing with what Trump has done in Venezuela with Maduro, it's a very different scenario dealing with Iran. So the possibility of an attack here with, of course, that massive naval buildup like you were pointing to, and the warning that's come in today is so direct, saying that there will be a regional war if U.S. were to attack Iran.
Look, part of the problem is that Donald Trump was told in 3 instances that the world would come to an end if he acted on Iran. He was told this if he withdrew from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iran nuclear agreement. The world didn't come to an end. Then he was told when he was in deciding whether to assassinate Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Jerusalem Committee of the IRGC, there would be a terrible regional reaction if he did that. That didn't happen. Then he was told, well, if you strike Iranian nuclear sites, you're going to have a regional war. American interests are going to be undermined, and that didn't happen. So Trump might actually feel that the Iranians are bluffing. And the problem he has is if, in fact, he strikes the regime survives, then I think he's strengthened it. Or if he tries to mount a massive military campaign, which he can, then he risks the Iranians responding directly against American interests. And the Gulf states are very vulnerable, and the Israelis as well. So he put himself in this box. And now he has to figure out a way out of it. One additional point. You know, in Venezuela, he came for the oil, not to protect the Venezuelan people.
Right.
And he was willing to grab Maduro and his wife, leave Delcy Rodriguez and the other Chauvinistas in place. And the degree of repression from what I'm told in Venezuela has actually increased. It would not, in my judgment, it would be a fundamental mistake to essentially abandon the protesters in the street and cut some sort of deal with the IRGC or even with Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader,
Right.
In an effort to protect American interests and abandon the Iranian public. So again, with Iran, there are no good options.
Okay, we'll leave it at that tonight then. Aaron David Miller, appreciate your time and expertise. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.